Hello Internet, I am JF and I suck at ATS. Today we're going to play a couple of games. The first one's on the right, it's written in Common Lisp. It's a simple guess my number game. The idea is that the program guesses the number and then you respond to it and say, oh, your guess is too low or too high. Let's see, how are we going to do this? We need to have a loop where we take in strings of input. We need to look at the strings and say, okay, is this a smaller or a larger command? And then we need to update some variables and do some guesses and such like that. Let's say maybe just call it game with 1 and 100 as the lows, as the starting low and high point. So 1 is like the lowest possible guess you can make, and then 100 is the highest possible one. I guess it's similar to make this an if case. So if it's lower, just go ahead and call game again with okay, so it's going to guess something like 50, and then you respond and say, no, it's lower than that, so 50 is the new high point. So what if I Common Lisp add 1 to it? Oh, anyway, if that's a new high point, we can reuse the low point and say guess plus 1. Let's say, okay, that's correct. So high or low are okay. I wonder if this minus syntax is supported for if case. It probably isn't, but we'll try that. So what game does is that you give it your high and your low, and it prints a guess, and then it checks the guess against the user input. Let's check as the input string, so that means, so what we can do right here is we can either load ML, and then this will be garbage collected, or if we continue to leave it just like this without loading the ML stuff, then this will actually be, we'll need to manage memory for this. Let's go ahead and use garbage collection since we're mimicking a Common Lisp game. Typing wonderfully, as you can see. Alright, so now we don't have to worry about managing memory for that. So there's the guess calculated, just the middle of whatever it is, using the same kind of math as Common Lisp is doing. I think the reason they're actually using this arithmetic shift instead of dividing it by 2 is because if you divide it by 2, if you divide a number by 2 that isn't evenly divisible by 2, Common Lisp will give you back a fraction instead of an actual integer. Alright, so I guess check, and is there anything else I need to do here? No, that might actually be it. Let's try it. Oh, first we have to, since this is what is it? Alright, and of course there are problems. File. So line 6, I've got like a parsing error. Okay, that sign probably is bad. So in that case, we're just gonna have, if it doesn't, the string doesn't match any of those, then we're gonna say like, what are you talking about? And let's try again. Alright, what's the, I can't scroll up in TMUX. Alright. Don't ask again. It probably will let me scroll up in TMUX, but I don't want it to do that. Okay. So, dynamic identifier high is unrecognized in line 15. So there might be more error messages before that, but no, that's it. Oh, what? What is this? 100 is, I feel like you could have complained about that variable name before complaining about not seeing high, but, file ref get string is unrecognized. What was that called? Oh, get line string. Yeah, this is a high level function, like it tries to get an entire line of input. Guess actually as the program is guessing, the person playing the game is keeping it in mind. I know this needs lib ATS for the file ref thing for the line input. Alright. And there's no input. Is your number 50? Okay. So, hold on. So this is like the main body, and I'm saying where this stuff happens first. So it's actually, it's asking for input before it does this printout stuff. So, let's see. I could put the where and the if around the if case instead. So let's do it like that. Have it printed out, and then say check guess as a separate function. I think that would be fine. And yes, order actually matters here, so it's going to complain that it doesn't know what check guess means unless I reorder this or have declare it first. Let's go ahead and declare it first. I don't need to provide those types since the declaration includes them. Same as with the main. Yeah, I don't say this returns void. It doesn't say that doesn't accept anything. It knows that. All right. So check guess and that should be fine. This means it needs to know what guess is. What it needs to know what the low and the high are. So it really would be better as like a sub-function of this, but just go ahead and give it low and high and input. Line 6. Oh. Low end, high end, void equals. The dynamic identifier guess is unknown at 7. Oh. Yeah. This is getting a little bit lame now. Like I said, I don't actually plan out these episodes. I just have like a general idea of what I want to do, and then I do them live. So it would be a shame if you thought that I were better at ATS than I in fact am. Why doesn't it like that? Oh, I'm just totally confused now. Again, it doesn't like input. Oh, because that's I'm still calling it check there. Check is unrecognized, line 21. Okay, I'm still calling it check there. I changed it to input. Alright, guess. Is your number 50? Now it's, let's say it's 27. So, 26, that's too low. 38, that's too high. Okay, that's right. Okay, yay. Alright, what? So I didn't understand what. Okay. That's one way to do it. So, yeah, so higher and lower, and then okay, and then it'll just complain about anything else you do and repeat itself. So let's say our guess is 76. Let's say it's 80. 80. It's higher than that. It's higher than that. It's lower than that. That's okay. That's correct. Alright, so this works. This is the program guesses a number between 1 and 100. Well, no, you think of a number, and the program guesses that number. The only constraint has to be between 1 and 100. So let's look at this program again. This is terrible. This is awful. We're repeating guess, and if we have like a separate function, it doesn't really make sense to have it there, and it's all like our style is just horrible. I'm not going to change the hard tabs here, though. I'm using Linux kernel style for ATS. I'm just going to continue to do that. But yeah, we don't actually like this game. Or the game works. We don't like this implementation of it. One thing about Common Lisp is, I guess, you still have to think a little bit about that. You can just. I think it would be very easy to get lost in Common Lisp in the same way. But anyway, in this case, you have a REPL and your program's around your program is written around that. Whereas in ATS, we're reading lines in and then checking those lines and for commands. So I don't like this. I want to redo this. Let's leave that as something that works. And let's make guess 2. So I have another game after this. That game is probably going to have to be in a separate video now. That my first attempt at the first game was not that good. Okay. So main just says main provides the low and the high, which are 1 and 100 by default. We have the game loop here. It's not really a loop since it doesn't call itself. It calls check guess, and then check guess calls game. Let's see. Let's do it like this. It's adding the low and the high and dividing by 2. And always getting an end. Alright, so the program's guessing a number, asking the user if that's it, and then it needs to get some input. Now in Alchemald, I want this to be a little bit nicer, but in ATS we have to have another indentation line if we want to have some input. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that and see how it works out. Since we're using a garbage collector anyway, we can go ahead and use data type pretty freely. Let's say response is going to be lower or higher or okay. And then we can just say right, lower +1, yeah. No, it's smaller. It's -1. Oh yeah, because it's exclusive. You're saying it says, hey, is it 50? And you say no, it's less than 50. Then the highest possible value is going to be 49. That's why it does it like that. Oh, and this, if I left it like this, this would be like a pattern match. It would see this as a new variable to be bound. It would bind that to whatever the response of getResponse was. So it's not actually a comparison with the constructor. So you have to have parentheses like that. Alchemald solves the same problem without the parentheses by having like variables have to be lowercase and constructors have to be uppercase. And SML solves it by not solving it and just complaining about it, giving you a warning. It's like, hey, you probably didn't mean to do that. But I like the ATS's solution here. Alright, that is much nicer. Okay, so the way this became nicer is we're no longer doing string comparisons and having to store input in a temporary variable or anything like that. We're just getting a response, and then we have these different types for it. Okay, so I'll get response. Line string, was that it? Yeah, line string. Alright, and getResponse just loops until it gets something that it understands. Yeah, this is much nicer than the other one. And also, this one it would be easy to get rid of the garbage collection. Let's do that. Since I'm not doing 2 games anymore, let's go ahead and do that. Wait, did I? No, that's right. This is all old stuff. Alright, it's a new command. We have data type. We have kinds of responses from the user. We have getResponse, which gets one of those. We have our main game loop, which is the program comes up with a guess and says, "Hey, is this right?" And then it responds to the user saying, "No, it's lower or higher than that," or whatever. What is it? Line 8. Oh, val. Okay, I did that there. And one thing, since this is using garbage collection, I'm going to have to add a special case. Alright, let's say it's 22. this again and guess 2 here. Alright. Now let's get rid of the garbage collection. And then for our next video, we'll add the garbage collection right back for the next version, for the next game, but whatever. It's going to be just libc, and we're not going to link in GC. We still need ATS-lib for the line-based input. Alright, instead of a response like this that needs to be memory managed, we're going to have a view type response, data v type. So everything like that's the same, but now these are linear and they need to be consumed. If only there were like a consumption syntax for strings like this. No. Let's go ahead and free it in each one of these cases. It's not that bad. Okay. So if it's a string that the program understands, it goes ahead and frees the input and then returns the data view type instead. And over here we can add a tilde so that it frees these when it matches them. Yeah, I started to make a separate value for that, but no, it's fine. As expected to be formed a constructor, line 28. Oh, jeez. That was accidentally marking in the other program. Let's look at that again. Look at guess 2.dats. So yeah, lower, it matches lower, higher, and this is actually matching everything. Any other possible value. It just happens that any other possible value is only going to be this one value. That's what I want it to be. Let's fix that anyway. Wow, that's a ton of problems. So line 11, dynamic expression cannot be assigned the type stir pointer. So it's a linear string. It's like, yeah, this isn't right. On line 11. The founder of getLineString. Oh, that's right. Remember I said I'd have to load the ML in order to get the garbage collected stuff because it changes. Like this is actually a separate function in that case. Yeah, so I need to get rid of the ML stuff in order to do data view types. Because otherwise I'm just using a different function. Alright, it's consumed, but it should be retained. Line 12. So I'm freeing the input, but I should retain the input. But why? Why should I retain the input? Pretty sure I should free it there. Why is Ellie complaining about that line? Let's look at this error again. Okay, it actually is complaining about all three of these lines. Yeah, it's consumed, but it should be retained. This is 17. Input is consumed on line 17. That's saying that I'm not consuming the input. Oh, that's because this case might not do it. So I was actually leaking memory here. I would have leaked memory if ATS had allowed it, but it doesn't actually. lame. Now I'm... Yeah, let's make this a value. So value R for response, if case. It's going to be one of these. Well, that means I need to have like an invalid response type. I guess I could do that, but that's kind of lame. No, I don't. Actually, I don't. That would mean that, okay, so what I'm thinking is, like, having a loop, that would mean, like, if somebody, like, could continue to, well, what I'm thinking of is a design where if somebody continues to, like, spam random lines and they say things that aren't commands, then it would loop, here, and then it would have to come back and then freeze some stuff before being able to return to the game caller. So it means like something could potentially like blow the stack or even run out of memory, well, much less possibly. So let's not do that. Let's just laboriously free the pointer in every case. So this is, I mean, obviously garbage collection's nice. So. All right, but the thing there is that ATS caught that for us. We were gonna leak a memory. ATS is like, no, you're not handling this linear value right. You're not consuming it in every case. All right, so let's say 88. Quick. All right. All right. And that happens. That's because there's no response to, like if I do EOF, then if like what I did right there is I terminated input. So this actually returns an empty string in that case, which it doesn't recognize as end of input. Like, if you just hit enter and don't enter anything, you'll also get an empty string from this. What I could do is just check that in this case. It's basically FEOF. Alright, that is guess the number in ATS. We solved it first with garbage collection. And, okay, this is actually their second attempt. We solved it a second time with garbage collection with like get response that takes random user input and only returns one of these response types. And then our main game loop deals in terms of response types and updates its high and low values by that. It doesn't use global variables; it just recurses with new, with whatever the new values are. And these are all tail recursions. It's fine. And the one we're just looking at, same thing, but we're not using garbage collection anymore. We're having linear types, which also changes our input. Before the input, the lines were the strings were garbage collected. Now we have to free them manually. This is actually pretty ugly. Like we have to free it in every case. But although it's ugly, it's safe and sort of clean, and also ATS caught where we were about to screw up there. ATS was like, no, you haven't. You're not doing this right. So even though it was a little bit confusing, obviously the error messages are not. The error messages take some getting used to. Actually, I would hope that I never get used to them and instead they improve. But in any case, we figured that out. And the main game loop is very similar, except sort of these tildes where it's automatically reclaiming that memory. Automatically, well, it reclaims it in a much nicer way than up here where I have to like explicitly free it. And our first attempt was awful. It was awful. We have val gas. We calculate it in both places, and we have a game loop. It's not actually a loop. It's it has to check gas to call back to it. So this is just nuts. But we noticed that it's nuts and fixed it. All right, that is it.